Good morning. As Jesus continues the Sermon on the Mount, he also continues to unpack how his kingdom operates. It's a kingdom where God rules not just our outward behavior, as if our outward behavior could make us righteous, but he rules in our hearts. This includes our motives and our inner being. The very center of ourselves should be oriented at God, honoring him in all we say and do. Now think about it. If you've ever seen the Olympics, the track and field competition, then you've probably seen the high jump. There's a bar there that everybody has to clear and jump over. They either are successful or they aren't. They either hit the bar, knock it off, and then they're disqualified for losing points. And you know how that works. In the same way, in the exact same way, Jesus is now telling us that he's raising the bar. He's making it clear that a life pleasing to God, it doesn't just include our outward performance, our works, things we can do in the flesh, but it begins with an inward change in our desires and motives, a heart change. God sees the outward and the inward person. As Jesus laid out what living a life devoted to God looks like, we see that apart from him, it would be impossible to meet the standards set before us. Now, in Matthew, we'll come to this verse, Matthew 5:38, we see this new way of loving others come to light. Jesus makes it clear here that retaliation should not be sought when wronged. Instead, we should show grace and mercy and forgiveness. And then he talks about revenge. It's not what we should seek ourselves. We should turn the other cheek and offer the evil person your outer cloak, even if you are sued for your inner tunic. We need to be giving as people as often as we can. And if a Roman official, he goes to the instance of a Roman official or a soldier forcing you to carry their equipment a mile, which was a rule, then you were to voluntarily carry it for them an additional mile. Literally going the extra mile. That's where we get that phrase, right? We should do more than expected. You can imagine what this type of living would do. It shakes things up. Who would do more than is required by law? Who would be gracious to those who are evil? Who would not seek revenge for wrongs done to them? Who would give away their cloak, which was their only warmth at night? You know who would? Followers of Jesus would do that, and they do. This type of living was going to, and still is, changing the world. And when we get to verse 43, we see more. Instead of hating your enemies, which was part of the Jewish ethic in some circles, we should love them and pray for them and those who might persecute us. Because of this, Jesus says that we may be children of our Father in heaven. So in other words, this is how God's kids operate. This is how they act. It runs in the family. They are marked by his love. So after that, he goes on to explain that it's easy to love those who love you, but to love those who hate you or persecute you, well, that takes a work of God. Even pagans and tax collectors, he says, they can love those they agree with, but to love those you disagree with takes a transformation. A transformative work of Christ in our hearts. Then he concludes with this whole section by saying, "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." Jesus is not shying away from the bar being so high. And here the word perfect in this context does not mean sinless or flawless, but more points to the fact that we should be complete and spiritually mature and whole. And the way we reach this goal is to be empowered by the Spirit of God in our lives. It is his work in our lives, not of ourselves. So let's strive to always operate in Jesus' upside down kingdom he has here, where we don't respond like the world does. We don't live like the world does or value the things of the world, but we value the things of God, and we seek to make his kingdom known.